Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro continues his historic tour of China, boosting relations with the Asian nation. In the United States, the Speaker of the House announced an investigation to impeach President Joe Biden. In Libya, floods caused by torrential rains from Storm Daniel left more than 5,000 dead and thousands more remain missing. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with the tour of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro that met with the director of the International Center for Poverty Reduction in China, Liu Hyun-wen, during his official visit to the Asian country. As part of his work agenda, the Venezuelan head of state emphasized that both sides discussed participation in the high-level forum on poverty reduction and development scheduled for the end of October, as well as the plan to strengthen the firm commitment to adopting policies that contribute to erasing the asymmetries of capitalism that generate poverty. The Venezuelan head of state detailed the national government's policies related to poverty eradication and social care plans to protect citizens from the devastating effects of unilateral coercive measures. Our colleagues Adriana Sivori and Marcos da Silva continue finding and collecting stories that showcase Venezuelans' daily life, their creativity, resilience, and capacities. In a new episode of our series Venezuela on the Move, we learn about the work of a group of women in Petare neighborhood east of Caracas who found in the art of the needles and threads a way to help their community and sustain their households. Their workshop serves as atelier for repair and crafting and also as a school for younger apprentices, and is a vivid example that every shining diamond starts as a humble charcoal piece.
Irene. Inside the shop, Irene slows down the foot pedal. She attends to her first customer. At the age of 19, she felt the texture of fabrics for the first time, and to this day, she hasn't stopped stitching.
This is our trench from where we help the community. Here in this workshop, we generally do repairs for the community at a very low cost. And the only thing we charge for is labor as people bring their own materials.
The cost is the equivalent of $1. They also make uniforms, shirts, and t-shirts for companies, which gives them a little more profit. Raquel is the eldest in the workshop, and her skill in handling the thread and needle makes her a master of the trade.
In all these years, I have also helped several people in the community sew, to learn how to sew. Family members and non-family as well. Neighbors, because my whole life has been sewing.
These sewing machines don't stop. At least 10 people a day show up at the shop asking for their services. One of the young women works part-time. Her passion for sewing has brought her here.
What I used to do was mainly sewing. I had no idea of how to cut. And after the classes I have done here, I now know how to cut. I identify myself more with children's clothes. I love working with baby clothes. I make headbands, bows. I make tutus. I love my country. I believe in my country, and I think there is a lot of potential here.
This cut and sew shop is located at the hills of one of the urban areas where people with low income live. It was founded in 2011, and since then they haven't lost a thread. The formula, they say, is to help the community.
Marcos da Silva y Adriana Sivori, teleSUR, Caracas.
Young people in Nicaragua are proving that education in the countryside is a powerful tool for change, boosting professional development and dynamizing its economies. The story from a correspondent, Kenya Donya.
In the heart of the natural beauty of the northern region of Nicaragua, specifically in the department of Jinotega, the university in the countryside continues to transform communities. Anielka Ixamara Montenegro Lopez is studying agribusiness engineering through this educational strategy promoted by the government.
I'm currently in my fourth year of agribusiness engineering, and I was very interested in it because it is a career that is not very well recognized. Although it is very important for our country to help provide an added value to the goods we Nicaraguans produce in the countryside, such as milk. When they said they were going to open a university in the countryside here in the municipality of Alucua, I said, this is the opportunity I have been waiting for, and I'm not going to let it pass.
This young single mother is an example of how education in the Nicaraguan countryside has motivated young people to innovation and entrepreneurship.
I started making yogurt and baking cakes. I started making cakes about a year, in November last year, and on my way 30. Thank God. I made 18 cakes, which means that it's something that people have liked. And it's not only to work for someone else, but also it teaches us how we can grow, how we can learn and become entrepreneurs.
In the same area of the country, we visited Norbin de Jesus Celedon Juan, another student of the university in the countryside, whose family is dedicated to agricultural and livestock activities, and that's how the idea to study a related career came about.
If the university comes and gives me the opportunity to continue my studies and strengthen my knowledge, that's very useful for me. The program has been very important because it has allowed me, for example, to validate the knowledge I had.
Honey production with native bees is the area he has developed the most in his farm.
In ideal conditions, we have been able to produce up to 5 barrels of Apis mellifero honey. In relation to the Melipona bees, we have not done much. But we have managed to produce 2 or 3 20-liter buckets.
The university in the countryside is a government educational program aimed at residents of rural areas in the country. Its objective is the promotion of socio-economic development in order to help reducing poverty in the most vulnerable populations of the rural sector through the technical and professional training of its young people, with careers that meet the needs of its localities.
Kenia Duña, teleSUR, Nicaragua.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The United Nations reports that the number of displaced people in Haiti due to violence has increased to more than 20,000 at the end of August. According to data from the UN, the most recent scale of violence was registered in the neighborhoods of Carrefour Fouilles and Savanes Pistaches of the capital Port-au-Prince, with constant clashes between various armed groups trying to take advantage of the political power void. According to the UN, more than 4,000 families have fled the area, and the individual number of people affected exceeds 20,000. Another 15,000 displaced people have been registered in Bas-Port-de-Chausses, another suburb of the capital. The president of Guatemala, Alejandro Yamatei, held the second meeting for the transition with President-elect Bernardo Arévalo, who assures that not all state institutions show democratic transparency. In a press conference held at the Mosaic Cultural Center in Guatemala City, the capital of the country, the running mates of the Semilla movement, Bernardo Arévalo and Karim Herrera received dozens of volumes of legal, financial, and administrative information of the 53 institutions of the executive body, with the Organization of American States as the only external observation entity. The formal act was carried out, which left serious doubts to the elect binomial.
Cease the judicial persecution and intimidation from justice sector institutions against our party and the officials who have been elected by the people of Guatemala. And we thank the people of Guatemala for the support they have been providing, and we are sure they will continue to provide for this transition process in order to ensure that it is effectively concluded on 14 January 2024, and that we respect and grant this mandate, which is nothing more than the freely expressed expression of the people of Guatemala. Thank you very much.
In the United States, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced an investigation to impeach President Joe Biden. The House leader ordered the beginning of a formal impeachment investigation against the U.S. President, who is being accused of alleged corruption. According to McCarthy, the investigation is based on allegations that Biden lied when he claimed he was unaware of illicit business dealings by members of his family. The investigation follows the House's inquiries into alleged criminal activities involving the President and the foreign business dealings of his son, Hunter Biden. Russian Natural Resources and Environment Minister Alexander Kozlov has received North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the Kazan station in the Primorye region. Kozlov wrote on his Telegram channel that Russia and North Korea have been good friends for 75 years, and that all these years have been supporting and helping each other, not only as neighbors, but also as close partners. Earlier, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un will take place in the coming days. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu will also participate in the talks. According to Peskov, the meeting between Kim and Putin will be held face-to-face as well as through delegations. The parties will discuss trade, economic cooperation, cultural exchanges, as well as synchronize their positions on international affairs. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final short break, don't go away. teleSUR is the Welcome back from the south. Floods caused by Storm Daniel that devastated the eastern Libyan city of Derna left more than 5,000 dead and thousands missing, emergency services said on Tuesday. The disaster in the country was caused by torrential rains from Storm Daniel, which made landfall in Libya on Sunday after earlier hitting other Mediterranean countries, especially Greece, but also Bulgaria and Turkey. The coastal city of Derna is surrounded by hills and divided by what is normally a dry riverbed in summer, but which has become a raging torrent that has also washed away several major bridges. Libyan television pictures show dozens of corpses wrapped in blankets or sheets in Derna's main square, awaiting identification and burial, and more bodies in Martuba. More than 300 victims were buried on Monday, many in mass graves, but it was feared that a greater number of people were lost in the waters of the river that flows into the Mediterranean Sea. The Rwandan government signed an agreement on Tuesday with a Canadian-German startup to build an experimental nuclear reactor, saying it would help reduce use of fossil fuels in the African nation. The reactor will be ready for testing in 2026, according to Dual Fluid Energy, the startup responsible for building the prototype. The company's CEO, Guts Ruprecht, told reporters in Kigali that the new reactors can be used to produce electricity, hydrogen, and synthetic fuels at costs below those of fossil fuels. Rwanda's Minister of Infrastructure, Ernest Sambimana, said the use of nuclear power would provide a stable and reliable source of electricity, reducing dependence on fossil fuels and helping to meet growing energy demands. Moreover, the Atomic Energy Board and Dual Fluid Energy said their plans pose no threat to the population or the environment.
Of course, Rwanda is aiming to have reliable and stable energy, of course, as attracting more investors and then focusing on heavy industry coming new years coming. So this is actually the focus and the target of having reliable and stable nuclear energy.
Small. And because it's small, you don't need to spend much money for all the structural materials and for the surroundings. So this means we can produce electricity with this reactor for a fraction of the price of today's nuclear reactors, which are already cheaper than many other energy sources.
Damascus was visited by the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, as part of the UN's ongoing efforts to achieve a political solution to the crisis in the Arab country. Let's see the details of this visit in the following report by our correspondent, Hisham Wanos.
The visit took place to assess with the Syrian authorities the preparations for the 9th meeting of the Syrian Constitution Discussion Committee, to be held for the first time after several months of deadlock in the capital of the Sultanate of Oman, as a result of Damascus' return to the Arab League. I have discussed with the Syrian government the implementation of a step-by-step solution process and also the preparations for the next meeting of the Syrian Constitutional Committee. And I will continue the talks with the friendly Arab diplomats, and I will hold meetings with the Arab foreign ministers when I go to New York for the United Nations General Assembly session. And also, of course, I will meet with the foreign ministers of Turkey, Iran, and Russia. And I hope we can consolidate some of the agreements that we had already reached earlier. In this context, Pedersen updated the Syrian authorities on his meeting in Damascus with the heads of the Arab diplomatic missions accredited in Syria, as well as on his contacts with other regional and international countries interested in a political solution to the crisis. A solution that the Syrian Foreign Ministry made clear to the international mediator clashes with Washington's interference policies, marked by occupation, support for terrorist gangs and separatist militias, the imposition of illegal coercive measures, and the plundering of the natural resources of the Syrian people.
Western pressure on Syria has increased on the eve of the international mediator's visit to Damascus, and this pressure materialized with increased terrorist attacks and attempts to block the borders between Syria and Iraq, as well as the mobilization of more invading U.S. troops on Syrian soil, and all this to force the Syrian government to offer concessions at the next meeting of the Constitutional Committee in the Sultanate of Oman, and therefore to gain more from any possible solution to the crisis.
In parallel to Pedersen's visit to Damascus and in response to continued terrorist attacks against civilians and military personnel, the Syrian Arab Army's heavy artillery and missiles, supported by Russia's aerospace force, annihilated 111 terrorists and destroyed their strongholds in Idlib and Hama. A counter-terrorist war action that Syria and its allies consider essential to the success of any diplomatic efforts to solve the conflict.
Hisham Wanos, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
We have come to the end of this news from. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
This September 15 and 16, Cuba celebrates the summit of Haiti 77, China. Accompany our correspondent, Gladys Casada, to follow up on this important coverage. A meeting convened under the theme Current Development Challenges, Role of Science technology, and innovation to consolidate the position of the bloc in the current international scenario. Follow this news through our cross-platform, only on teleSUR.
Who's moving the chessmen? What interests motivate the actors behind each event? The board is deployed there. Critical Move investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on teleSUR.
We are approaching a new era. Technology trends and the massive deployment of new networks. It is just the beginning